We all have a common enemy. Let's each fight back by Ammon Gunderson. Would you ever act against your own wishes? Each of us lives by values. These values are beliefs that guide our actions. They are intrinsically motivating. Nobody needs to tell us to live this way. So I'm going to reword the question. Would you ever act against your own values? I think we would all like to answer that no, we don't. But realistically, we all do act against our values at times. These values vary, ranging from honesty, a belief in God, a belief in kindness, a belief in treating people right. We have all acted against these beliefs at times, and we are human. That's part of being a human. But we are also victims of temptation. And if it wasn't for an external source, I don't think we'd have any reason to live life outside of these values. Satan is real. He lives here as a spirit, and he is simply butthurt for the consequences of his actions. He's miserable, and he seeks our misery too. My qualifications to give this speech are not official. There are no official credentials that exist. But I spent 2 years in group therapy in Life-Changing Services, which teaches self-mastery, and it focuses around fighting Satan and his tactics. The book, Like Dragons Did They Fight by Maurice Harker, which is available as a free download if you'd like a digital version. lifechangingservices.org, Like Dragons Did They Fight, free download. You can just search it on Google and find it. This book specifically is focused around the fight against pornography and self-mastery in that aspect. But pornography can be a metaphor for whatever you are trying to gain self-mastery over, whether that be overeating, being mean to people, whatever it is, you can apply it there. This is a problem because everybody's affected. Satan doesn't tempt based off race or age or gender. He tempts everybody. I'm not the only one who's been tempted. I'm not the only one who's followed those temptations. I know that. We all make mistakes, but I think oftentimes we're harder on ourselves than we deserve to be, and society kind of points us that way. Now, a belief in Satan isn't just choosing to push your responsibility onto someone else, like Satan. We're still responsible for our actions. However, it's important to understand that Satan has mastered his art of temptation. He uses anything in our past and the brains and traumas we've experienced through life to get us to act against these values. An example to talk about the responsibility aspect is if you were in a war and a grenade were thrown right in front of you, who would be to blame for the injuries caused or the deaths caused by this grenade? I think all of us would be pretty obvious that we'd say the person who threw the grenade is at fault. They would be held responsible for all these injuries and deaths. Similarly, Satan is throwing grenades in our minds. He's taking advantage of chemicals and trauma and things in our past to make us act differently than we would if we were in the right mindset. So our responsibility lies in recognizing the grenade being thrown and in our response to that grenade, what we choose to do when we recognize that it happened. Along those lines, negative self-talk doesn't exist. Negative thinking is real. The Cleveland Clinic shares that negative thinking says, quote, psychologists link negative thinking to depression, anxiety, chronic worry, and obsessive compulsive disorder, close quote. Thoughts like, gosh, I'm the worst, such an idiot, why did I do that, could fit into the negative self-talk category. Satan uses both negative thinking and negative self-talk to keep us in this negative mindset and keep us blaming ourselves for it. Another, what I would call negative self-talk, I would call it satanic or demonic bullying. Now, some of Satan's favorite tactics are, I've got three of them, that basically everything else he does falls within these: judgment and pride, anger or malice, and addiction and numbing. He uses these tactics to get us to point them at ourselves, also at others, to judge ourselves, to judge others, to be angry at ourselves, to be angry with others, to be addicts or to support others' addictions. He uses all these to bring misery to our lives. So what's the solution? We are fighting a 7,000 plus year old genius, and alone we can't do it. But we are stronger than Satan is because we chose to follow God before this life. We can focus on our relationship with God. We can practice and learn about Satan's lies. He's a broken record. Once we know the lies, we will see them repeated. Scriptures study to recognize both our relationship with God and our relationship with Satan and all his lies. Moses 1 is really great. Joseph Smith History 1. And also just practicing recognizing the grenades that Satan's throwing at us mentally and choosing to respond, not react. My invitation today is take your agency back. God has given us our agency to act the way that we want to act. His desire is that we choose to come back to him, to keep his commandments. Satan fights against this desire. He wants us to not follow God, to not want to go home. He wants us to not follow God's commandments. But as we learn to recognize Satan's lies, we can more appropriately respond and act in the ways that we want to act. Take our agency back. We are children of God, and I believe that as children of God, we would live within our values. We would live the way that we want to live and follow God.